Hey everybody, Happy New Year. Hope that everybody's doing well. Hope you're enjoying the holidays as much as you can in the time in which we live. And goodbye 2020, huh? And hello 2021. So I don't want to be long, which for me means I'm probably going to be 30 minutes. I'd like to keep it to 15, but I know myself better than that. And I do feel like I have something to say that I want to encourage you with. And I want to talk about reasons for hope in 2021. Now, I realize, and there's a number of people out there that focus on this, I realize that today, in terms of the world around us and cause and effect, today is just another day. It's a day that we collectively um, decide to mark the beginning of a new year. And in terms of cause and effect and what's going on in our world and stuff, it doesn't really change anything. And by that I mean, let's just take the pandemic for example. Most of us, if you're in an area like we're seeing probably the peak of the outbreak, definitely the peak of the outbreak here, especially in my county. We've had, I think we were up to like 1,000 cases or something the end of October, and I think we're about 13,000 now. So we're seeing definite spread. Most of us know someone who's either been in the hospital or died. My mother-in-law died over the Thanksgiving holidays from the coronavirus. And so that's still out there. The vaccines are out there. Whatever your decision is about a vaccine, I respect your right to choose. But I do think it gives us reason to be hopeful that we can put this thing behind us. But those things aside, I want to talk about why New Year's, why I think New Year's is important for us, and specifically the time that we're living in. I also want to reiterate something that came out in my live program from Sunday that most of you probably saw. If some of you maybe haven't, if you haven't seen it, I want to just take a shorter space, a shorter live video to uh, describe it to you. And those of you that did see it, hopefully it'll be a good reinforcement for you, because I do think there are reasons to believe there's change on the horizon and that there is hope for us. But I want to talk about the importance of New Year's because every culture has ritual. Now, those of us that are deconstructing from Christianity, those of us that are awakening, ritual is a four-letter word. Ritual is a bad word, but let's just set the semantics aside. What is a ritual? A ritual is just something that is an ordered pattern of behavior that we do consistently. It's not necessarily something like in the church we would say, the Catholic Church, the Episcopalian Church, the Orthodox churches, they have what we used to call as charismatics, the bells, the smells, the incense, and the nonsense. And we didn't see much benefit in ritual, but cultures have rituals. And when you're looking at spirituality and consciousness, whether it's one of the major religions, whether it's something that's a little bit more in the peripheral of most people's minds, things like paganism or Wiccan, voodoo, ancient shamanic religions, whatever, there was always tradition and there was there was always ritual that was corporate. So an individual ritual might be waking up in the morning, taking a shower, brushing your teeth. Maybe you have a ritual that you go through before you go to bed. You do the same things. Um, that's the definition I'm using of ritual. But there's these corporate rituals that we do, which are really powerful in consciousness. So if you have a strictly naturalistic view of how things happen, if you don't take a quantum physics view or a spiritual view, where you believe that thought and feeling, consciousness has an actual direct cause and effect impact on the world around us, then this is going to mean nothing to you. But if you believe that our thoughts, our feelings, our moods, our consciousness can directly impact matter, directly impact circumstances, directly impact the world around us, then New Year's is a time where there is a collective consciousness where we are making a demarcation in our minds of past and future. Obviously, we're always just living in the now, but our mind records the now as past, present, and future. And so our mind needs these demarcations. Now, people will do this. Trauma can be one of these demarcations in the mind where people, if you lost someone that was very close to you or you had a traumatic event, they'll talk about life before the traumatic event and life after the traumatic event. So an example in my life would be before my mom died, life before my mom died, life after my mom died. That's always going to be a demarcation in my life. That's going to be kind of mark a season of change. So a lot of people, uh, for a lot of people, trauma, going through a divorce, maybe something positive like getting married, having a baby before the kids came. These are all demarcations that denote change. And this is why it's important, because you cannot change effectively without some kind of marker in your mind in regard to past, present, and future, and the person that you were versus the person you are now and the person that you're becoming. So this ritual that we do of celebrating New Year's provides us corporately with a collective demarcation. We will always look back, whatever happens in 2021, we will always look back on 2020. And most of us collectively in our consciousness, we're not going to look back favorably on 2020. And so it's important for us, I think, as a community, as people, to be able to have a demarcation to say, okay, this section of our life was trying, this section of our life was difficult, this was life-changing for us. Now we have an opportunity to say, okay, even though the pandemic hasn't changed, the shutdowns, whatever's impacting your life hasn't really changed, we have the opportunity to say, okay, we're leaving that and we're moving forward. And that's an important and powerful marker in your mind and in your consciousness that says things are going to be different, things are going to change. One of the things that I noticed happened to me over the last few years, really, but especially 2020 just kind of amplified this, from the perspective of just living my life, not talking about personal growth or expanding my consciousness or healing or whatever kind of work I did on myself and the good things that happened, I noticed that I have allowed myself to get into a pattern of survival, which I think a lot of people have, because that's what's on people's mind, whether it's the coronavirus, whether you think that's something to worry about or not, it's still bringing up into our consciousness this issue of just physical survival and health. Maybe it's the financial impact. That's, again, an issue of survival. And so it's easy to get stuck in this pattern of just surviving. And I realized that for me, part of the change that I need to make and that I want to make going into 2021 is to go from surviving and just getting along to thriving. Now, here's why I think we have reason to have hope and why I want to encourage you to grab hold of this and do something, because collectively there's an energy right now that we have done for hundreds of years, this ritual of letting go of the old year and bringing in the new year. And there's this idea that people have around New Year's resolutions and that kind of stuff. And whether you do that stuff or not, what I'm trying to say is there is a wave of conscious energy right now in the consciousness of humanity that can give you momentum to move out of something that you're stuck in and move into something new. Now, I did a live video on Sunday and had not planned on going here at all. I was talking, and all of a sudden, there are just these moments sometimes when I'm talking where I just start receiving a download of things I've never thought about, things I hadn't heard, things that I hadn't talked about, or if I did hear it, it was somewhere in my subconscious. It wasn't on my conscious mind. And this happened to me on Sunday in regards to the conjunction of planets on December 21st, the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. And so I went ahead and I just spoke intuitively with a flow, receiving a download from some higher consciousness, my higher self, spirit, Holy Spirit, God, however you want to understand it, doesn't matter to me. It's all semantics to me, but I knew that I was not speaking from my own knowledge or my own awareness, that something higher was coming through me. And I'm not an astrologer at all, and astrology is extremely complex. So I know what I don't know. But I did want to go back and I wanted to research a little bit. What were astrologers saying about the conjunction? Because I hadn't really looked at that, hadn't really paid much attention to it prior to last Sunday. And I wanted to make sure the things that I said about the planets were accurate. And the more I dug into it, the more I realized how complex it was. And the more I realized how little I didn't know about astrology. But the idea of astrology is how the planetary energies are impacting our consciousness here on Earth. And it's constantly moving, it's constantly changing. So good astrology is going to look at from, December 21st to June 26th, these planets are going to be somewhat in conjunction and in these various different houses. And so therefore, these energies are going to impact you until then. And I'm choosing to look at the conjunction of the planets more as a sign. And so I take my lead from scripture still, just because it's just been helpful for me. But I want to point out something that the Bible says in Genesis 1:14. It says, "And God said, let there be lights in the firmament. Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons and for days and for years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light to the earth." And it was so. And then it goes on in verse 18 and it says, "And let them rule over the day and over the night." So you see several things in here. Most astrology is focused on the days, the second part of this, the days, the years, and the rule or the influence, or what the Bible calls in Job, the sweet influence of Pleiades, or binding the influences of Orion and stuff like that. I want to look at this strictly from the first one. He says, let them be for signs. And so as a person who's intuitive, as a person whose consciousness is expanding, I want to just speak to you what I was reading and what was downloaded to me in the signs of what happened in this conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. Now, Jupiter and Saturn are the largest planets in our solar system, but particularly in an ancient astrological setting, they are considered to represent two different poles of energy, different types of energy that are opposite to each other. In ancient astrology, especially, now let me just say this. Well, let me say this first, and then I'll clear it up. In ancient astrology, Saturn is generally seen, and I want you to notice I'm saying generally. It is generally seen as a malefic, destructive force. Jupiter is seen as a benefic or a beneficial or a source of prosperity. Now, having said that, I want to point something out, that this idea that the gods were dualistic did not exist in the ancient world and where ancient astrology comes from. That's really a Western concept, this idea of dualism. And here's what dualism is. Dualism says that you can take good and completely separate it from evil and set up two diametrically opposed groups, or the nature of something being as 100% good, 100% evil, and not sharing any characteristics. So we see this in Christianity. God is good all the time, or so we say, and the devil is evil, and they're opposing forces, and there is no reconciliation or spectrum between the two. Ancient gods were not this way. Ancient gods were seen as having both benefic and malefic, or having both good and evil characteristics. You can even see this with Yahweh in the Bible. There are times that he is a beneficial and good, and there are other times that he's thinking about evil. In fact, there are places where God repents. God repented in the scriptures that he made humanity. God's getting ready to wipe out the Israelites. Moses talks some sense into him, and God relents or repents of his decision. So we see this ancient concept of the ancient deities as embodying what we have within ourselves, which are both creative and destructive forces, or beneficial forces and malevolent forces. Are you tracking with me? So I want to bring this in with the concept of Jupiter and Saturn, because I don't want to look at Saturn as simply a malefic force, or evil force, or destructive force. But certainly Saturn represents, from all the sources that I could discover, Saturn represents a restricting or constricting force. Saturn is about setting boundaries. Saturn is about law and order. Saturn is about separation and division and categories. And so it's a restricting force. Whereas Jupiter is the opposite of that. Jupiter is an expanding force. It's pushing out and expanding and being expansive, whereas Saturn is taking what's been pushed out and constricting it. And so Jupiter would be seen as a good sign of it's an opportunity to expand yourself. It's an opportunity to expand your business. It's an opportunity to look for opportunities to better or expand or grow your life. Got it? Saturn would be seen as this sort of constricting, destructive force. So here's the sign. Look at the synchronicities. Setting that aside, on December 21st, which is the winter solstice, it's the beginning of the new year in terms of agricultural cycles. It marks the day when it is the darkest day of the earth of time, winter, right? It's the darkest time. There's the least amount of light shining. And remember, in ancient cultures, they didn't have lanterns and kerosenes and necessarily even candles. So as soon as the light went out, man, that was it. You were just stuck in darkness. So imagine being an ancient person. This idea of when it's light and when it's dark is really, really, really important, right? So it's the darkest day of the year. It is also the coldest day of the year. And winter is when everything dies. I go out and I look at my trees. They don't have leaves on them. Unfortunately, I can still see where some of the dead leaves are in my yard. Not much, but there's still dead leaves. So this idea of winter is an idea of when it's cold, when things die, when it's dark. And so the winter solstice represents the end of that. At that point, it was believed in ancient cultures that on the winter solstice, the sun died. And then on December 25th, because there would be no measurable movement in the sun, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, and then it would move 1 degree. And on the 25th, then you could see noticeable changes in the sun where the sun or the light begins to triumph over the darkness. So it's a sign of light triumphing over the darkness. And it's a sign of new life coming because we're moving out of winter, we're moving out of the cold of winter, and we're moving into the springtime, the time of new life. So winter solstice was an important day because it celebrates the time that we can put the darkness behind us, we can put the death behind us, we can put the coldness of winter behind us, and we can look forward for an expansion of light and life to come, which culminates then during the summer solstice around June 21st, when it is the brightest day of the year, the warmest day of the year, whatever, middle of summer, and the sun begins to then go upon its descent. And so we went through these cycles and these seasons, and they would have rituals and festivals and things to mark these various different episodes of the year, and then expand that to how that relates to the seasons that go on in our lives. So you just so happen to have this conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter on December 21st or on the summer solstice. And we were able to see it, if you guys had the chance to see it, it was the brightest star in the sky. Now, because my vision is not great, when I looked up at it, I saw one star. I'm looking, where's the two stars? Where's the two stars? And I'm seeing this bright star. Finally, I get my camera out and I just blow up the screen so I can magnify it a little bit because I couldn't find my binoculars. I didn't want to get my telescope out, which I should have, but I didn't. And I could see that it was the two planets side by side. So then astrologers tell us, now this is interesting because I looked at Vedic astrologers who generally operate with Eastern patterns, and they were saying that the sign was in Capricorn, but all the Western astrologers that I looked at said that it was at 0 degree or it was moving into Aquarius. So in other words, you have Saturn, you have Jupiter being the brightest star in the sky conjoining in the constellation Aquarius at one astrology thing that I looked at said at 0 degrees. Now, if we bring this all together, not as how the energy is impacting us on that night, but we bring it together as a sign in the heavens, then I think we have a very, very auspicious sign in the heavens in 2020, the most difficult year for humanity in my lifetime, for sure. Something that was impacting the world. And all of a sudden, there is this sign in the sky on the winter solstice between these sort of competing energies. We'll look at that in a minute. Jupiter, the expansive energy, Saturn, the constricting energy, together, right, in Aquarius at 0 degrees. Man, the synchronicities there. I mean, if that's not screaming to you about where we're at, I don't even know what to say. But for me, it's an auspicious sign of hope and change. the fact that it happened on December 21st is a sign that at least, the darkness and the death and the decay and the constrictions, watch this, of 2020 are behind us, and we can mark out in our mind and say, okay, yeah, we really can look forward in 2021 to something being different. Now, having said that, let's look how these forces work together and what this might mean. Let's start with Saturn. Saturn, as I've been saying, is seen and interpreted in most of the stuff that I looked at as a constricting force. Has to do with law and order, has to do with the rule of law upon the earth, at least according to stuff that I looked at. Again, I'm not an expert by any means. By any means. I know that I don't know. So forgive my ignorance. But I want you to think about the last year and the constrictions that we all felt of this last year, the constrictions of social distancing, the constrictions of the impact and strain to our health system, the constrictions of government coming in and, at least in America especially, doing this blunt, just generalized shutdown without really without enough help for people. And so people who are struggling with depression, struggling with anxiety, struggling with trauma, this makes it even worse. The constrictions of mask mandates, whatever your opinions are on that, I'm not trying to get into that. I'm just trying to point out that we're seeing this constriction. Come on, didn't you feel this constriction over 2020? And sometimes this constricting force was unbearable. Now, I want you to see that there is no good and evil here. Constriction is not a bad thing. Let's look at it this way in terms of energy. Let's just take light, for example. A laser beam takes light and constricts all the energy of it and focuses it on a specific point so that that laser can cut through something. If light is just expansive, there's a lot of wasted energy in that sense. Do you get it? There can be a lot of wasted energy, but when the constriction comes, it can bring it together, amplifying its force and power and focus to create a breakthrough or a penetration. You see what I'm saying? Same thing with electricity. Electricity is everywhere, right? Benjamin Franklin didn't invent electricity. He discovered electricity. And then Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla and others, learned how to harness this force. So that's what Saturn's about. That's the positive part of Saturn. Saturn is about taking energy that is expansive and almost wasted, if you will, and learning how to constrict it or bring it into a place that it can then serve us and benefit us. So the constrictions, so there's like a shadow side and a bright side, right? So that constriction isn't necessarily bad. Then you have Jupiter, which is an expansive, powerful force to move you forward, to move you into opportunities, to move you into an expansion. And you've got these two lining up. So twofold. On a collective scale, what I think it's saying to us is that whereas 2020 has been marked by constriction, there will still be constrictions into 2021. But I really do believe, I just sense and think, and I'm hopeful that history is going to repeat itself and we're going to go into another roaring 20s in this century, that there's going to be an expansive, powerful energy that's going to move us forward, and that the constricting energies that we've experienced, the shadow side of those constricting energies, are going to, at least we have the opportunity to move away from those and to move into expansion. Now, I want to give a caveat because there are going to be some people that going forward are going to experience this by their own choice, by how they're working with what's happening right now in the world, in what I believe God is doing, that are going to become more constricted. They're going to become more cynical. They're going to become more bitter. Their boxes are going to become even smaller. Their groups of people that they can connect with and relate to is going to become even smaller because they're going to focus and emphasize on that which constricts and divides. So for those people, then things may get even more constricting for them. They may feel even more bound, or they may feel safer within the boundaries of those constrictions. On the other hand, Jupiter left alone can create this expansion where you're just all ideas and no action, or where you're just moving from one opportunity to the next. When these energies are in conflict within yourself, you can experience it as one day talking about, oh, all these great things that you're going to do and these visionary things, and we can do this and we can seize these opportunities and we can go these directions. And then the next minute you find yourself overthinking it. Yeah, but let's come back down to reality. That's not really going to work. Let's look at all the details. Oh my gosh, this is going to be too hard, that kind of thing. And so those can be conflicting energies. But when you bring them together, you have a powerful marriage of a pushing forth or a sending forth of more energy with the constricting energy of Saturn. You get it? That can harness that energy and put it into a plan and put it into a strategy and put it into a focus that will work for you. So on the one hand, you're going to have people that are going to be too lopsided on the constrictive energies, living in smaller and smaller worlds, more divided worlds, more constricted worlds. We see the answer in more law and constriction in government. On the other side, you're going to have the expansive energy that's going to be, oh no, it's all freedom. It's all just, let's just, but it's all thought, if you will, and no substance. You get what I'm saying? But when you bring the two together, you can have something, if you understand what's happening and how to work with that, you can have something that could be very, very powerful for you to help you move forward. So on the one hand, collectively, the constrictive forces are giving way to the energy of Jupiter and expansion. But on the other hand, we want to harness the benefit of those constrictive energies and turn it into strategies that will help us to move forward into something that we can really sink our teeth into, or that we can really manifest on the earth. It does you no good to have ideas if you don't have strategies and plans for grounding those ideas and moving them forward. You see what I'm saying? And then I want to deal with the fact that it's in Aquarius, because a lot of people believe this was a sign that we had moved into the age of Aquarius. Almost every astrologer around the world agrees we are either on the cusp of the age of Aquarius, or we've already entering it. And I'll let them debate and figure out when exactly that happens. But Aquarius, this is big, this is huge, because the end of the age of Pisces means the end of the way we've done things in the past. And I'm going to keep saying this, and I know this is hard for us, because we want to keep alive the systems of the past. And when we do that, we are swimming upstream and we are not going to be successful. And I know it's hard because it's impacting our lives and it's changing our lives, but we would be much better served to just understand the old ways don't work anymore. And we're going to have to look for new ways in every area and every endeavor of society. We need to look for new things within the realm of spirituality. We need to look for new things in the political realm. We need to look for new things in the business realm. We need to look for new things in relationships and the way we relate to one another. All that stuff is changing, and there's not a damn thing any one of us can do about it. No matter how much we liked the structures of the age of Pisces or didn't like them, those structures are passing away. Those shadows are passing away, and something new is emerging. And none of us know. We can try and talk with certainty, but that's our need for certainty leading. It's not reality or truth. None of us really know what this new age is going to look like, or what these new systems are going to look like, because it's going to play out for the next, roughly 2,500 years or so, depending on where you mark it. So well past our lifetime. We're at the very beginning of this, but watch this. So you have this auspicious sign in 2020 on December 21st during the winter solstice, these two planetary energies coming together in the constellation Aquarius, according to some astrologers I was reading, at 0 degrees. 0 is absolutely the number of pure potentiality. It is the number of pure potential. It is the beginning of creative energies. So it marks the beginning of something new. So I think what the heavens are saying to us is that, yes, the constrictions that we felt in 2020 that were magnified, that season of darkness and death is over. Winter solstice, Saturn ruling with its shadow side over us. A new day is coming. Jupiter, the light, the sun, new life, new ideas, all of that's coming to us. in a new age of Aquarius at 0 degrees, meaning that we get a fresh start. And so here's what I want to encourage you to do. Take 2021, take today, and use all this energy, the consciousness energy, your mind's need for a demarcation between the way I was and the way I am, the way life was and the way life is going to be, the sign in the heavens that I believe God gave us, that we can, that this is going to be a time of prosperity and expansion, but we also want to harness those energies of strategy and manifestation so that we're not just dreaming all the time or living in this realm of magical thinking, but we are able to take the inspirations, we are able to take the ideas, we are able to take this energy and we're able to move it in a strategic direction that will benefit us. And I think we'll see this on a corporate scale. I think we will see a roaring 20s. I think we will see innovations in every field and in every endeavor. I think we'll see all that stuff. The other thing about Aquarius is Aquarius speaks of equality. And so we are moving into an age of equality. And that's why some of these systems have to topple, because we did not have systems in the age of Pisces that were based on equality. We had the haves and the have-nots. We had those that were in power and those that were not empowered. And we have a inequitable distribution all across the spectrum within humanity. What we are going to see in the age of Aquarius is an age of equality, an age of equality, an age where resources are so expanded that they're going to become available to everybody. This isn't going to happen overnight. This is going to be an expansion, an evolution of humanity and consciousness that's going to happen over the next 2,000 years or whatever. But I think it's important for us to say, okay, yeah, something is happening. It is a new year. It is a new time. It is a new opportunity for us. And it is, I can build an altar, if you will, in my mind. I can build a demarcation that says, this was me in the wilderness. Now I'm in the promised land. This was me in Egypt. Now I'm in the wilderness. Or this is me in Egypt. Now I'm in the promised land. But I want to encourage you to get out of survival mentality and start thinking in a more visionary way about yourself, in a more visionary way about your life. And if there's one thing I can encourage you to do, it's to adapt the stories that you're telling yourself about yourself. Because if you are telling a negative story to yourself about yourself, woe is me, I've had it so hard, man, life has been tough, man, the last 4 years have been hell, COVID has really jacked up my life, the shutdown cost me my business, my family members died, whatever, and you constantly see yourself at that place of effect, then you're not going to be able to take advantage of this, because this is going to be a year of opportunity. It's also going to be a year of struggle and tension, because you got those two forces that are working, that can work together, but that can also work in conflict with each other. And so a lot of whether or not you experience the constricting reality of 2021 or an expansive, prosperous reality of 2021 is all going to depend upon the character that you're playing in your own story, because that will be the filter through which you will filter the experiences that you're having in the next year. All of us are going to meet with opposition. All of us are going to meet with adversity. All of us are going to meet with challenges. And if you have that negative mindset, if you see yourself as weak, as powerless, as the effect, as the victim, you will interpret those circumstances through that lens. You'll give more energy to that, and that will be the role that you will continue to play. If, on the other hand, you can say, I'm done with survival mode. I'm done with the negativity. I'm done with the constrictions. I'm done with the dividing, and I'm moving forward with an idea to thrive. I'm moving forward, seizing opportunities. I'm moving forward, believing that, if God be for me, who can be against me, or the universe has my back, or whatever language you use for that. But I would encourage you to believe, man, you got invisible resources. You got invisible resources supporting you. You've got the energy of God, the divine source, supporting you. You've got the energy of a spiritual team of angels or higher entities, higher consciousness, whatever. You've got your higher self. You've got all these resources in the metaphysical realm that are supporting you and empowering you and creating synchronicities for you. And so you can begin to develop a new character on the inside, a new person on the inside, a new reality on the inside that emerges that says, yes, there's going to be difficulties. Yes, there's going to be adversity, but I am going to triumph over those. I am not going to let those stop me. I am going to move forward. I am going to write my story. I am going to influence what happens to me in 2021 more than I am going to allow what's going on around me to influence me in 2021. 2021, I am going to harness the expanding of my consciousness and my own personal divine power, and I'm going to focus it on healthy decisions and good decisions and positive decisions. And I'm going to focus it as an energy that can help me overcome the obstacles and leap over the hurdles that 2021 is going to put in my way. So you have reason for hope, and I hope I've given you reason to grab hold of that reason of hope and put the demarcation in your mind and say 2020 is over, damn it. That time of darkness and constriction is over, and I am coming out of the winter of my life. I'm coming out of the darkness of my life. My sun is going to rise. New life is going to spring up around me. I'm going to overcome the obstacles that are coming against me, and I am going to make the most and the best of what's given me. And that's going to start by redefining who you are on the inside. So if you want to take some time this month and just think about and be really, really honest with yourself, give yourself some reality therapy. What's the character? What's the part that I've been playing in my own life? Have I been negative? Have I been whiny? Have I been cynical? Have I been divisive? If I've been those things, okay, I'm going to own those things, and I'm going to use the energy and the power this time, and I'm going to use hope to change those things, and I am going to become a more positive person. I am going to become a more effective person, and I'm going to be able to go out and enjoy my life. So anyway, that's it. I hope that was helpful for you. I'm just going to look at a few comments, some really great comments on here. Too many for me to really comment on, and I don't want to be long. So I was longer, 5 minutes over my goal. Thank you guys for watching. I love all of you. I'm man, come on. I'm believing the best. I'm seeing you on here. I believe in you guys. I believe in who you are and what you can do individually and what we can do collectively together as a subgroup, as an awakening community, as a community that's moving out, deconstructing from the things of Pisces and moving in to the new age. And all of you are just a blessing to my life. I want to thank you for everything you've given me for 2020. I'm looking forward to working with you guys and just seeing what 2021 brings for all of us. So God bless you. Happy New Year.